Mr. Canales, if you can call roll, please.
Mr. Cohen.
Here.
Mr. Corey.
Present.
Mr. Hayward.
Here.
Ms. Parlamas.
Here.
Dr. Pucci Bender.
Here.
Ms. Stevenson.
Here.
Mr. Tang.
Here.
Ms. Calvez.
Here.
Dr. Robinson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Ms. Calvey, can you lead us through the flag salute, please?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of meeting in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, as amended by PL 2025, Chapter 72. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided on March 3rd, 2026 by posting notice on the Glen Rock Public Schools website where legal notices and advertisements are listed, as noted. The mission statement, the Glen Rock School District, founded on principles of education in partnership with a supportive community, provides an exceptional education to all students to cultivate resilient, responsible, and engaged global citizens. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing? Ms. Stevenson, seconded by Mr. Hayward. If we, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Motion passes. We are in our public hearing.
All right.
Yeah, go. You want me to, or? Yeah. So Mr. Canales is going to present mostly, and on the budget, I'm going to jump in at maybe one or two slides, but he's prepared this presentation for you and for the public to understand our budget in a much greater sense of what we've presented in the past month or two. Nothing that we're talking about tonight has changed as far as the draft budget that was approved in March, but this is just a little bit more information for all of you. Mr. Canales.
Thank you, Mr. Van Ness. So everyone, welcome to our public hearing. I thought we would start a little bit differently than we've started most of our budget hearings, in that sometimes when we talk about budgets, you know, we get caught up in numbers and economics, sometimes even politics. And so I wanted to refocus us to look at what our budget really looks like when it's executed upon.
Who knows what the diamond is?
Four, three, two, one.
Good morning, Medical School. I'm Austin Mason. On Monday, we'll start off with early time stats. High 57 and low 43. Make sure to grab your umbrellas.
So while that only kind of featured our middle school and high school, there are amazing things going down in our elementary school, but these 4 people, along with Mrs. Verblick, responded to a call on Friday and put this together for me on very short notice. So thank you to them, and I hope you get a little bit of an insight, because in that video, we saw many of the things that are in our budgets, whether it's technology, programs, our teachers, our facilities, all of which were presented quite nicely in that video. So thank you very much. So tonight's agenda, we're going to give you an idea of basically the entire budget process, the numbers, how we came to the decisions we came to, what were the stressors that were in play, what was the climate, what were the pressures, where were the pain, points of pain. So we want to go through it and give you as best an understanding as possible. So, and to do that, we're going to go through about 10 different sections here. So first, we're going to talk about budget objectives. We're then going to have a brief conversation of New Jersey budget legislation, which is very important to have an understanding of, because where we are is a direct correlation with some of legislation that's come out of Trenton. We're then going to talk about what our budget process looks like and give you a 30,000-foot idea of our budget. We're then going to jump into revenues. We'll jump into expenditures. We'll talk about the tax impact on the community. We'll talk about fund balance and reserves. This is really where we're going to be talking about the financial stability of the district as we move forward. We're then going to talk about our debt service fund. And then we're going to talk about some multi-year financial planning to the extent that we can do long-term planning at a school district. We're going to kind of talk about some of the things that are going through our heads so that you can have an idea of where we may be headed moving forward. And then we're going to have questions. All right, so these are our budget objectives. So our number one objective was to develop a budget that was in compliance in the soft 2% capped along with the associated cap adjustments. So we're going to talk about this ad nauseum tonight, but that was our number one goal, to prepare a budget that met the 2% cap. Our second goal was that we wanted to maintain all of our programs. That was very important to us from the beginning. We wanted to decrease our reliance on fund balance or excess surplus. That's savings in our budget years that is used to balance future budgets. And you'll see how we've been systematically bringing it down every year, which adds to the financial stability of the district. Number 4 and number 2 are very closely interrelated in that we wanted to maintain our class sizes, and we didn't want any impact on our current head count. We didn't want any increase or decrease in staff. And why they're interrelated, because if we were to reduce staff, the likely result is a reduction in our programs, and we want to keep the programs that we have because we think that they're essential to the overall Glen Rock experience. On the class size domain, right now we average between 18 and 19 students per class in our elementary school, and we feel that that's important for our younger learners, and we want to continue that. Dr. Van Ness, do you want to talk a little bit about the next couple?
Sure. So one of the things that we talk about frequently here when we're talking about maintaining our high-level programming and staffing are some of the non-traditionally academic things like social and emotional learning, professional development for our staff, and that tiered instruction that we're talking about a lot. You know, how are we supporting all students, not just the general ed, not just the kind of middle-of-the-road kids, but our gifted and talented kids, our kids that need BSI, and other supports of that nature. When it comes to like actual academics, we're also expanding our AP offerings to include AP Chinese, AP Seminar, which will lead to an AP Capstone project class, AP Business, and AP Cybersecurity. We offer a tremendous number of AP classes, especially for a high school the size of ours. You know, we keep talking about the programming and the high level that we expect here in Glen Rock, and And this budget provides for that. You know, we can still be very proud of what we're doing. I think you all see kind of in the news right now, a lot of schools having to trim back, having to cut bigger class sizes, things like that. And we're very fortunate to have this responsible budget that allows us to maintain what we have and continue to build on what we have. And I know that Mr. Canales will talk much more about facilities and infrastructure and all those kind of things, but that's part of our care also. We have older buildings here that we're making sure that we're maintaining and making work as long as we can. But turn it back over to you to keep going.
Sure. So we'll pick up on number 9. So we wanted to make sure that we had the required resources needed for the new science curriculum that is being launched, so we make sure we have the resources for that. And we also felt it was very important that we continued our relationship with Sunday and the phonics program that we implemented, I believe, last year, if not the year before. And we have cursive coming, so we need to prepare for that as well. Hopefully I'll be able to sit into one of those classes because my cursive is horrible. We also want to maintain the district facility initiatives that we started. So this past year, we approved phase 1 of an RTU replacement plan where we're doing, I believe it's 4 units this summer. And we want to be able to continue that because there are still more that need to be replaced.
An RTU is a
rooftop unit. That's how we get air exchange into our buildings, both heat and air conditioning. Sorry. We also wanted to replace our bottle fillers. There's an opportunity where that may be funded by grants, but if we don't get the grant, we wanted to make sure that we could still do the bottle fillers, continuing with phase 3 of our sinks and cabinet project. That's down at the elementary school, as well as continuing our painting 4-year plan where we were going to be able to paint every elementary classroom and then put ourselves on a rotating basis so that we always have nicely painted classrooms. The environment means everything as our younger learners come into our buildings. Item 11, we actually completed before the budget process started. Health insurance is going to be a very dominant theme in my presentation tonight. And the very first thing we did was we investigated whether or not we had alternatives to the New Jersey State Educators Insurance Plan. And so the way you do that is you get your claims rate. We got our claims rate to see how good of a pay we were, and we weren't a very good pay at all. And we were unattractive in the health insurance space, and so we were not able to get out of the state plan. We'll talk more about that as we move along, but that was an alternative that we investigated back into the fall and determined that we didn't really have many options. And then last, I think any budget presentation should always make sure that you have some kind of stability on a go-forward basis, that we're setting ourselves to succeed, not to fall. So let's jump right into it, and let's talk about some budget requirements in statute. When I came into school business, it used to stress me that everybody always began with a source in the code, and now I'm doing it, so bear with me. NJSA 18A, 17F through 37, and sequentium is where you can file all of this information that we're about to present. The state of New Jersey has a 2% soft tax levy cap. What that means is that you can increase your tax levy by 2% above what it was in the previous year. What does that mean for Glen Rock? It means about $1.1 million based on last year's budget of $55 million. So we have that $1 million that we could increase our tax levy, not the tax rate, the tax levy. But the legislature also recognized that there would be time where we needed adjustments, where costs would increase at a rate that were not sustainable by the 2%. And so there are about 3 or 4 of them. So the first one is bank capped. So bank capped is really easy to understand, is if you do not go all the way up to 2%, the delta between what you raise taxes to be versus what was allowable is allowed to be carried forward for 3 budget years. Okay? This year, we don't have any bank cap in Glen Rock, so that's not a part of our number this year. If your enrollment were to increase by more than a threshold set by the state, more students to educate, that's going to cost more, the state will allow us to adjust our tax rate for that. We do not have that in play this year. The next one is accrued pension liability. If for some reason we were behind in our pension payments, which we're not, we might be able to get an adjustment for that. We are not in that position, and therefore that's not at play this year. But what is at play is an incredible increase in healthcare costs. So what's in front of you is the actual screen in the budget software. And it goes through the calculation of what you are entitled to take as a health insurance adjustment to your cap. And essentially, in a nutshell, it says you can have everything but 2% of the increase in your premium, and then you take that increase and apply it to last year's budget. So in this case, the state says that they increased 31.9% our insurance premiums. So if we take 29.9% of last year's health insurance budget, that is our cap. So our cap is about $2.3 million. So very simply, our health insurance costs went up $3.2 million. The state says we could take a $2.3 million adjustment on cap, leaving $835,000 to be funded by the 2%. Now, if you remember, I said the 2% is only $1.1 million, and there's $800,000 of that gone. So how did we get to our increase on our operating budget this year? Well, if you take that $2.3 million and you put it over last year's tax levy, you get 4.26%. To that 4.26%, you add the 2% that we're entitled to take, and you get a 6.26% increase on the tax levy in our operating budget. So that's where we are on our operating budget, and it's completely driven by healthcare costs. So why are health insurance premiums increasing the way they are? It's the exodus of districts with healthy claim rates from the state plan. So if you remember when we were talking about objectives, and I said we tried to get out of the state plan by looking at our claims rate. And our claims rate is merely defined as what we've paid out, or the fund has paid out to third-party providers, divided by what we've collected in premiums, okay? The industry would like an 85% number there. We are at 130%. And because we're in the state plan, we don't get a lot of data about our insured souls, of which there's about 289 of them. So we don't know what drugs that anyone is on. We don't know what the prognosis of some of the illness that may be going on. We don't know if it's going to be prolonged illness, short-term illness. Obviously, we wouldn't know names, but you could know prognoses. So we really kind of fly blind being in the state plan. So we don't know if that 130% is where we would normally be under normal conditions, or are we in a spiked period of time, and then that what might be followed by a valley? We don't know. What I can tell you is that we've been asking for our claims rate now every year that I've been here for the last 3, and it's always been in that 125 to 131%. So that's kind of where we are, and that's unattractive to the current insurance markets for us to leave and have our own plan. So the state plan is a conglomerate of bad pays, and so therefore the premiums are high. There's some improvements that can be made on plan design within the state. So, for instance, the formulary is very large. It also includes GLP-1s for weight loss. That is driving a lot of our costs. That is also becoming available orally now, which we think, and our insurance advisors believe, that may increase the level of usage because now you don't have to give yourself a shot. So we could work on the formulary to possibly improve performance. We could mandate generics drugs. We could work with our copays. So the copays on some of our plans have not changed in many, many years. And if you actually apply the time value of money, they're actually in the hundreds of dollars of what like Direct 10 was 15, 20 years ago. So we're not saying that we should have a couple $100 copay, but we're just saying that those are the pressures we're seeing on the overall insurance fund and driving some of the increased costs. We could limit specialists. So those are all things we could do if we were in charge, but we're not in charge. We are really subject to what the state decides it wants to include or not include in its plans. And then we all see this, and no matter what line of work you're in, just a general increase in healthcare costs. They're rising, it's expensive. You have prescription drugs that are skyrocketing as companies try to make back their research and development money. And we also have litigation that's obviously putting a pressure on our costs. And then we have the way we determine what our employees' contribution to their health benefits is. So we have Chapter 44 and we have Chapter 78. So under Chapter 44, which is the newer of the contribution methods, you pay based upon a percentage of your salary. And basically everyone who's in Chapter 78, they pay a portion of the premium. The state is forced everyone who started working after July 1 of 2020 to be in the Chapter 44 plans. The lower they were at when they first launched, they were much lower cost and much lower contribution compared to the Chapter 78 plans. So we have everybody being forced into those plans. And that was great until the premiums on those plans also began to rise in the double digits. So as premiums increase, if you're only getting a portion of the salary of an individual, you're getting less and less contribution. So let's put some real hard numbers. Prior to January 1 of 2026, every time we ran payroll, we got about 18.5% contribution towards benefits. Now, after the 32% increase in benefits, we're only seeing 13% of a contribution. So costs are increasing and contributions are decreasing. Not a good place to be. Here in Glen, about 88% of our staff is on a Chapter 44 plan, up from 60% last year. Well, why is that happening? Because the legacy 78 plans are so expensive, and you share the premium, so they're migrating over to the Chapter 44 plans where there's a significant increase in premium, but only a small increase in the contribution to that plan by the employee. So it's a real double whammy, and it's not only something that here in Glen Rock we're seeing, this is being seen all across the state. Well, the good news is that Chapter 44 sunsets on December 31st of 2027. I said good news, but it could be bad news. We don't know what happens then. So stay tuned. Hopefully, the Trenton can come up with a way that is a bit more sustainable for school districts. All right, let's talk about the process. So the process is driven by voice, in that everybody has a voice in our budget. It's not just some spreadsheet that gets developed in the business office. We work with all of our stakeholders internally and with the board to make sure that we have a budget that we feel is fiscally responsible and addresses the needs of students. So we begin way back in late October, and we provide all of our principals and department heads budget worksheets where they build a bottoms-up or zero-based budgeting, and they tell us what they need to run their building with the programs that they envision, okay? During that time in October, the superintendent and myself sat down and we identified what are the larger initiatives that we wanted to accomplish in 26, 27, and how would we go about that, including staffing levels. And once we know what our initiatives are and we know the programs that we want to offer, what is our requirement in terms of headcount to meet that, and then we cost out what those individuals cost us based upon our existing collective bargaining agreements. In November, typically around Thanksgiving, the budgets from the department heads and principals are due, and we begin to review those. We aggregate those into our total budget, and then we begin to add in the non-department head areas, things that are really controlled by the business office, like insurance, like out-of-district placements, substitutes, aides, things of that nature that really don't necessarily fall under one department only, but kind of span the entire district. So we put that together. And then in very late November, we had our first budget committee meeting. And what we did at that meeting was we gave a bird's eye view of what we thought the cost drivers were going to be and what the net impact was going to be on the levy. We were pretty darn close in November because we knew what was coming in terms of the healthcare increase that took place on January 1 of 2026. And so we pretty much were able to give folks an understanding of where we were going and what were the assumptions that we were making in our budget to move forward. We then put together our proposed budget internally over the winter holidays. And when we came back, we had budget meetings with all of our principals and department heads, where each one of them then had to defend the budget that they presented to us. And we also then gave them some insight on some of the central office type expenses that they were be allocated. So how many substitutes they have, how many lunch aides they were getting, how many one-to-one aides they would have in their building. Once we approved their budgets, we then had another budget committee meeting where we went through with a bit more specificity of what was in our budget, what the tax impact was going to be, what we had cut to balance our budget, and how we thought it would move forward from there. In February, we gave the entire budget to the Board of Education for their review. And then through the month of February, we held what we were calling micro-budget meetings with different groups of board members and going through the budget in a very granular level and trying to explain where we were and why we were there. That brought us to our tentative budget approval in March. The budget was passed, and we submitted it to the county for review. In April, we got back those budgets. And I'm happy to say that Mr. Van Nest, once again on the curriculum side, got a hole-in-one, and I got my first hole-in-one on the operations side, meaning that the county did not have any comments for us on anything we did. And now we're here tonight to approve our final budget. Let's talk about 30,000 feet. You have to start with enrollment. How many kids, how many students are we going to be educated? And our enrollment is essentially flat at around 2,500 students. That's where we've kind of been since I've been here. It also sort of kind of tracks very well with the demographers report that we had commissioned last year, and sort of it projects our enrollment over the next 5 years based upon developments in town, survival rates, and things of the sort. So we're right on track of where we believe we should be, and that's flat, with our biggest jump in any one school being Hamilton at 11 students. All right, very high level. Our operating budget, as I explained to you, has gone up 6.26%. 2%, everything. 4.26% health insurance. We do have another tax levy, and that's our debt service levy. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail later. But basically, that is our borrowings on long-term bonds that supported various capital improvements over the year. We currently have 2 bonds that are outstanding. Because we had the opportunity last year to refinance our 2016 refunding bonds, we were able to lower the debt service levy by about $200,000. And that's why you see a negative 7.66% there on the total levy. When you combine the two, you get a net levy of 5.62. That is what total taxes in Glen Rock will be increasing next year. And again, we're above the 2% cap, but all costs other than health insurance were balanced within the 2% limit. Some Some key budget drivers here. We could see state aid, which is the money we get from the state of New Jersey to run our programs, is essentially flat. We got about another $50,000. You can see our health insurance surge of $3.17 million. You can see we do have some budgeted capital improvements, which are those rooftop units I had explained earlier, the bottle fillers, our cabinets. Those are those initiatives that will be collected or were collected via previous year's taxes and have no impact on our current taxes. We saved some money on out-of-district students this year. We have 11 fewer students, special ed students, that are going out of district, and that saved us $703,000. That is the key to balancing our budget this year, because with that, I was able to almost recapture 100% of the health insurance $800,000 that I needed to recoup. So thank goodness we had that. And that's a very unpredictable number year by year as our students flow through the system. We have students that move, students that graduate, students that come back in district. And so the cards broke in our favor, and we took advantage of that. You can see that $200,000 I told you about in savings of our debt service. And there you could just see, when you look at what does that 5.62% really mean? Well, it's about $3.4 million in the operating budget, offset by the 2 in the debt service, for a net of $3.2 million, or 5.62%. So anyone who has ever taken an accounting class, of which I've taken many, there is the accounting formula. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Well, it's the same thing with a budget. Whenever there's an increase in expenditures, there needs to be a simultaneous increase in revenue or some savings to offset it. So in a nutshell, compensation, what we pay our people, went up $700,000. That's on average 3.5% imputed in our collective bargaining agreements, as well as what non-affiliated employees received. By point of reference, the Northeast average wage increase for the period March 25 through March 26 was 3.4%. So we're right on track in terms of regional real salary growth. Okay, how did we fund that? Well, we funded that with our 2% tax levy increase of $700,000, right? Leaving $400,000 left. Well, we had talked about our $800,000 share of insurance. That's the remaining $400,000 we had on our tax levy, plus $400,000 of our out-of-district savings. The remaining $2.3 million of insurance, well, that is recovered by us taking advantage, full advantage, of the health insurance cap adjustment for $2.3 million. And lastly, all other costs, programs, extracurricular activities, athletics, buildings and grounds, insurance, utilities, all increased about $400,000 net. And the way we financed that was through the remaining $300,000 that existed on the savings of our out-of-district students, plus $100,000 in a whole bunch of areas where we were able to save money when we were going through the budget on a line-by-line basis. So the insight here, and I'm going to keep saying it because this really is a story of two budgets. We were able to balance our budget within the 2%, and it's only those health insurance premiums that drove us above the 2%. All right, let's talk about revenues. Unfortunately, Glen Rock bears the cost of 85% of your total school budget. We don't get that much state aid. Our state aid is about $4 million, up 1.28% or $50,000. And then that's, we were happy that we were essentially flat and we didn't receive a decrease. Could that change in the future? It could, and we'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about risks. Our capital reserve withdrawal of $3.2 million, the vast majority, I think 2.9 million of that 3.3 are 2 60-ton rooftop units that will be going here in the high school, with the balance being our bottles and sinks and cabinets. Our fund balance, we kind of talked about that earlier, where systematically decreasing our reliance on excess surplus by $100,000 a year. It's down from 1.4 million to 1.3 million. And we have our local revenues. That's a hodgepodge of different things, from our shared service with North Haledon. That's about 571,000 of that. A contribution by our community school. We're very lucky to have the Glen Rock Community School that contributes towards our operating budget, $250,000. We have some non-resident tuition. There's one high schooler and about 15 preschoolers that pay into our out-of-district tuition. And then we have fees, whether they be athletic fees or extracurricular fees. Those rates have stayed the same, but we just normalize them to what we've actually been experiencing as opposed to the budget. So that's another $200,000, up $50,000 from prior years. So, and then we have our maintenance reserve. I forgot about our maintenance reserve. Maintenance reserve was started back in the 24-25 budget year. We started it with $100,000, and we've been using $100,000 every year to finance our painting project. So once we're done with the elementary schools, the idea is then to take that and bring that $100,000 up here to the high school and get every classroom and common area painted up here as well. So, state aid, let's just take a brief dive into that, and we can see that we get about $3.1 million for special education. We get about $400,000 for security, $200,000 for transportation, and then extraordinary aid, which are the costs for special ed instruction beyond certain thresholds that we get back from the state at a percentage, on a percentage basis, based on the state's budget for the year. So typically it was as high as 90%. I think now it's kind of dropped into that 75% range. So we look forward to, actually that's due on May 23rd, I believe. So we'll be getting that number pretty soon. All right, so now let's talk about expenditures. So where do we spend our money? This graph hasn't changed in years. Our number one place where we spend money is on salaries, and you can see it right there. Our number two is health insurance benefits. And if you look at the big difference between the black and the red is that exact increase that we've been talking about tonight. Capital projects, the reason why you don't see one from last year is last year we did not put our capital projects into the budget. We appropriated the funds by board resolution. This year we did a little bit different. We actually built it into the budget so that you could see it a bit more clearly and more transparently. The fourth drivers are out-of-district tuition levels, followed by our aides, followed by, custodial. That's Aramark, who does all of our custodial services, which we are in year one of a 5-year agreement with them. Our extraordinary services, which are our aides, transportation, which is special ed related. This is transportation to and from school for our special needs students. B&G, that's our next one, followed by utilities, building budgets, fringes, insurance, and technology. The interesting number on there is that if you added up all of our building and department budgets, it only adds up to about $1.4 million. The pie graph is also a fan favorite. It basically demonstrates that almost 88% of our total costs are fixed, and our discretionary is only about 7%. So not a lot of money there for us to have any kind of flexibility with. And that chart has basically remained the same with the discretionary spending on a downward path of about 1% a year. Let's talk a little bit more about health benefits because it's the dominant cost driver. And let's see what's been happening to it over the last couple of years. So if we go back to 2022-23, we were in for $5.6 million. Included in the budget that we'll hopefully approve this evening, we have 11.4. That's 104% increase in 5 years. Incredible. That's not the slope we want on that line. And unfortunately, the early evidence is that next year, effective January 1, 2027, that we are again looking at double digits, probably consistent with what we saw this year. So the budget actually has the 31.5% increase that we actually saw, plus another 30% for January 1, 2027. Along the side there, you could just see all the other components that run into our overall benefits, so to speak, package. Health insurance, clearly the dominant factor there. We have PERS, pension contributions. Those are our non-certificated staff. We pay for their pension contribution every year, and that's determined by the state. I point that out because it's a risk moving forward. That's a percentage that the state dictates to us. And so as the state's budget goes, so too does that percentage that they allocate back to districts. Social Security, that is again the PERS or non-pensionable earnings of our employees that we pay. The Social Security on our certificated staff is actually paid by the state and not presented in our numbers. And then you have that all other category, which is tuition reimbursements and insurance waivers, workers' comp, and things of that nature. So you can see, all in, we're about $13 million on employee benefits. All right, instruction and programs. Here you could see basically the whole kit and caboodle of what we're spending our numbers on, but I can tell you that number there only increased $456,000, of which $367,000 are salaries. Again, back to that, our costs are not increasing at an unsurmountable level other than health insurance. And just the insight there, salaries year over year make up 81% of the total variance. These are all of our support services. And by the way, the categories that are in front of you, and when we post this presentation and we post our user-friendly budget, hopefully tomorrow, this is the way the state breaks down costs on the user-friendly budget. So you can see exactly where our variances are and what our budgeted amounts are. So on support services, we have a variance of about $2.9 million, entirely due to health insurance. There are some other increases and decreases that actually offset each other in there. The one standout that I want to bring forward to you is buildings and grounds. We talk about saving money and trying to cut back. So the buildings and grounds budget is up, 4.4%. That is entirely utility costs and property insurance. What is actually spent on buildings and grounds is flat, and it has been flat since I've been here. And the reason why it's flat is because in an attempt to save money, we have brought more and more jobs inside to be completed by our maintenance staff as opposed to being contracted out to third parties. When we hired our new director of buildings and grounds, that was very critical to us that we bring even more projects in-house. So we're continuing to do that, and we're very proud of the fact that our B&G budget is flat in spite of all that is going on with inflationary pressures as well as our aging buildings. All right, the slide everybody wants to see. There it is. On the average assessed home, which comes out of the tax assessor's office of $596,000, the tax increase is $528 a year, or I think $44 a month. If we want to talk about tax rates, the tax rate is typically established by the tax official in town. We, using some inputs that we got from the municipality, tried to estimate what it is, as we do every year. We use the same estimation model that we normally do. And so we could say roughly that this year the tax rate will be about 2.4% compared to 2.3% last year. Giggles and grins, we know that many homes in Glen Rock are worth more than $600,000. So I wanted to give you the calculation on a $1.5 million home is $1.3 thousand a year. There you can see our tax levy in our general fund of 3.4 offset by the savings and debt service of $200,000 for a net $3.2 million. And there you can see total levy that includes both the operating budget and debt service at $61 million. And down below on the black, you will see just another rendition of the fact of we're at a 2% except for everything related to health insurance, which makes up the balance. This is a 15-year trend on our tax levy increase. What's interesting to note here is that if you start up at the top at 12-13, you could see a period of no increases to small increases through 2016. And then you begin to see it starting to rise, 2.3, 299, and then along comes 18-19, and you got hit with a 6% increase, close to where we are today. Typically, what happens in periods where maybe you had bank cap is you were able to delay using some of that allowable cap into those future years, sort of kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit. And Glen Rock has been financially managed unbelievably well by both the board and my predecessor, Mr. Rinderknecht, so to put us into this position. So then we went up 6%, right? And then we have a period of 2.48, still high above the 2%, but coming down, 175, 175, 109. Again, we're generating bank cap, and then boom, 3.42, 23, 24, okay? That was not the year I started. I did not do that budget, but that was when we began to see the increase in health benefits, which then continues with the 3.4, 3.88, and now the 6.26, again offset by the debt service levy, which is sort of kind of fixed. That's voted on by the community and just kind of stays there. Our responsibility is to make sure that we have the best interest rate on that debt, and that's why we refinanced this past year. All right, let's talk about our balance sheet, or our fund balance and our reserves. This slide speaks to the financial stability of the district moving forward. So first, we've talked about this a couple of times now, is that 3.2% of fund balance that we're reducing $100,000 every year, making the district more and more independent of that savings. We see our capital reserve. Our capital reserve began the year at a $3.7 million balance. In closing out some projects that had been ongoing, we were able to refund $1.1 million into the fund. We estimate that we'll add another $700,000 to the fund at the end of the year from surplus, less the 3.3 that's included into the budget. So we project a 6/30/27 budget of about $2.2 million. And if I was a betting man, I would say it's probably going to be even more than that as we move along. Our maintenance reserve, again, it started off at 100. It came into this fiscal year at $525,000. We estimate that we'll contribute another $300 in June of this year. And then there's the budgetary $100,000 for our painting projects, bringing us to a projected balance at 6/30/27 of $725,000. And probably the most important number out there to the stability and the financial security of the district is what is known as unreserved fund balance. This is the ultimate rainy day emergency reserve. It's capped by the state at 2% of your operating budget expenses, and we are proud to say that we will be at that 2% threshold in our budget. And there, down below, you can see two of the fields and the track that we've recently done with our capital reserve, constantly improving our facilities and making sure that we're offering the best possible program to our students. All right, multi-year financial outlook. What are our risks? What are the stabilizing factors? And what are we planning for? So the key risks, health insurance has to be number one. We already know it's going to go up double digits, probably in the neighborhood of 30% for 27. What else is going to come down? What will be the plan design changes? Will there be plan design changes? We just don't know. That's our biggest risk. State aid uncertainty. In the newspaper, you might see a lot about folks revisiting the school funding formula, right? This is the second year that it has been fully funded by the state budget. There are winners and there are losers. Thank goodness we have been a winner, adding about $150,000 a year until this year where we only got about $50,000. Some districts are losing millions of dollars every year. based upon the formula. So there's a lot of call out there for Trenton to revisit the funding formula. I will add that this funding formula, which went all the way up to the Supreme Court, took years to finalize. So I wouldn't hold your breath, but who knows what's happening. We talked about PERS earlier. PERS is that pension contribution that we at the district are responsible for, our non-certificated staff. That's a percentage that is dictated by the state. So if the state budget is in trouble, you could anticipate that that allocation will increase, and it has increased every year. Enrollment changes. We don't have a ton of development in town, but we do have some development. What is that development going to actually result in students and seats? So we'll see what that means. And do we hit the thresholds that allow us to take an adjustment in cap in light of the increasing cost because of the increasing number of students? Or do we not hit that threshold, but see more students come in and have to fund those incremental students out of our existing budget? So that's something that we're very zoned in on. And then lastly, while it's last on the list, it's probably the one that keeps me up at night, are the aging buildings. And we'll talk a little bit about how we're kind of trying to plan there. All right, what are our stabilizing factors? Well, our stabilizing factors is our debt service is declining as a result of our refinancing. So that's great, good for us. Our community school is vibrant and still able to produce a net profit that we're using as a contribution to our operating budget. Our unrestricted fund balance, as we just said on the previous slide, is at the maximum possible level allowed by the state, which is a great thing for us. Our administrative costs are controllable and are consistently below the northern region's budget cap. We also have 2 collective bargaining agreements out there, both with our GREA, that's our teachers, and our GRAA, which are our principals and supervisors, both of which run through 28 and 29 respectively. So we have some cost certainty in the near term. We know what those numbers are going to be. We just need to know how many teachers we're going to need. So planning ahead. So while aging building is the last on the key risks, it becomes number 1 on the planning ahead. The board was gracious enough to allow me to contract with our architect in preparing a revised long-range facility plan. And what our architects have been doing, they've been visiting all of our facilities and accumulating all of the projects that we could possibly need over the coming years. We sat down and went through the schematics of all of those projects last week. The architect is in the process of now estimating the cost of those projects, and we'll be able to report back, hopefully, to the board by Memorial Day and either set a course for completing some, none, or however we think we need to progress. We're going to continue to review our health insurance options. It very well may be that at some point with escalating premiums that our claims rate goes down, right? It could happen. If it does, we will be out there shopping our plan for something that is equal or better than what we have at more favorable rates that maybe are just based upon our claims rate as opposed to the aggregate in what I like to call the plan of last resort, the state health plan. Addition and expansion of the district. So we have our pre-K now housed down in the lower level here at the high school, a fantastic facility. The kids are wonderful to see walking around the buildings. I think they did a pep rally for our AP students just recently, which was quite interesting to see. And so what do we need to continue the development of that program, as well as our autism program is moving from our elementary schools up into our middle school and high school. And there are certain things that we're going to need, like a life skills room, where we can teach some of our special needs students how to live on their own, clean their clothes, make their bed, make dinner, things of that nature. So we're in the process of starting to envision what that looks like, what are the resources that we'll need for that, and when we need to have it completed by. We're going to monitor our enrollment and be ahead of the curve as opposed to reactionary, but maybe be able to be pro-action. Well, that's not really a word, but be proactive in how we assess what our needs are going to be based upon enrollment. And lastly, it's the dreaded referendum. And we're way ahead of ourselves here because our debt doesn't mature until 33 and 34. But we have to start thinking now about what we may want to do then when the existing debt comes off of our books and we might have an opportunity to replace that debt with no increase in our tax base. So what are the facilities that we need? What are the facilities that we want? What's possible? What's not possible? And that's a really long-term objective there, but if we don't start talking now, it's going to be 33, 34 before we realize it. And God willing, I'll still be here with the district, so that's good. Lastly, let's talk about the debt service fund. This, again, is where we house our payments on existing debt that was used to finance capital projects. So our principal payments for next year are about $3.1 million. Interest is $953,000. Debt service aid, we actually get assistance from the state to make our payments in the amount of about $1 million. And we then have the balance, which comes from the taxpayer via the tax levy of $2.5 million. Just as a note, in 2019, when we did our referendum, they were able to do the projects in the referendum at an incredible savings. And that savings has allowed us to apply amounts bonded to lower our principal payments. So for the last couple of years, we've been putting in excess of $500,000 to offset our principal payments, which has saved the taxpayer money there. That is going to continue through the 28-29 budget, and then we'll sort of kind of used all of the savings that was generated by those projects. Below, you could just see a recap of our 19 school bonds and our 2025 refunding bonds, and some statistics on what we were able to save by refinancing this year. And that concludes my presentation. If there are any questions, I will gladly entertain them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Canellis. It's been consistently more difficult to have these conversations, and I appreciate the visual display. I will, one second. And then we can do the public. Okay. All right, so the format will just be any questions by board members, and then I'll be able to open up the public comments. Do you have your hand up, Mr. Corey?
Yes, I did. I was hoping this would work. So yeah, thank you. Before I make any questions, I just want to say we've had an incredible amount of challenges faced this year as a district. And the committee worked hard to try to understand all those questions and how they should really fit into this. Mr. Canellis, I want to say that this presentation is something that I wish we could have seen earlier in the year. I think because it really hits all of the questions that I know the trustees and the questions we've heard from the community have been asking about. There are nuance and details that, of course, are very hard to put in here, but I want to thank you for putting this together at this level and this breadth. It takes a lot, and despite being pretty tired, I'm finding myself paying attention to all the values that's in here right now. That said, I don't have a further question. Thank you.
Any other board members have comments or questions? Ms. Stevenson.
Just a comment. Thank you, James, for a very thorough presentation. And I also just want to thank you for acknowledging the past boards and the past business administrator. I think it was their due diligence that set us up for this. I mean, when you're looking around, we're one of the few districts that are not laying anybody off, which I think is a good thing. So I thank you for your work.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
Just to say, I'd also like to say thank you to Mr. Canellis. I've been through probably 25 years of multiple districts' budget presentations and budgets and seen all of them, and this was by far the most comprehensive and clarified so many things for the public. I hope lots of people are watching online tonight to benefit from this. And it is a difficult position we're in, and we're doing the best we can. And I agree, with what you said, Karen, that, thanks to previous BAs as well and boards, and this is a well-run district. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other questions from board members, I'm going to open up public comments on the budget hearing. You can state your name, and you have 3 minutes. It is 8:26 p.m., and we are open.
Is it comment only, or may I ask a question?
It'll be comment only. You can always forward questions, but
So I'll just state my question and at an appropriate time. John Cole.
John, there's a button. Press it on there.
Press the button on the microphone.
Forgive me.
thank you.
Right. It's all new since I was here. John Cole, 57 DeYoung Road, Glen Rock. Since the budget is in excess of the 2% cap, I presume there will be a vote. This will have to go to the public for the additional 3%, or do I not understand correctly?
Okay, so
And you don't have to answer now because I understand it's not Q&A, but that's something I'd like to understand. Thank you.
thank you. If it's green,
Okay, I have questions as well, which I can follow up by email. I understand the facilities are being reviewed, and you will share the findings during Memorial Day. With how much things are costing, I'm worried that this is going to balloon quickly in the coming years. I'm curious how we're going to fund those efforts, because two RTUs are not going to make the districts whole. My second question is, I know we are searching for the new superintendent. I'm hoping for an update soon from the board. And we have had discussion about having retired police officers to safeguard our schools, which I'm hoping the board will clarify, or if there has been any update on that. Do we have allowances to cover those additional costs, expenditures in the budget when the board makes a decision? Thank you.
Can you just state your name?
My name is Yun Luo, and I live at 34 Fairview Avenue. Thank you.
thank you.
Sanjeev Ori, 131 Fairmount Avenue, Glen Rock. Thank you for the presentation. Details, liked it. I wish you could have shared it in the previous meeting, but that's fine. Couple of things. I think the numbers are like huge. The only thing I know you explained everything why the numbers are going up, right? What you did not explain, like what steps did you take to reduce this increase, right? We piling everything on 30% increase on healthcare cost. Some of the savings that you talked about, we were able to do, and I was able to see the numbers. We initiated custodians outsourcing, and the community was up in arms, like, we cannot do this, like, because we want our own custodians. We took that steps. We brought saving. I did not hear any other savings initiative that you are considering right now. Hey, this is what we're going to do now, this is what we're working on, or this is what we're going to work on next year. So whatever the $3 million that you add to the existing fund, that will be the next year, and then 2 or 3%, 4%, whatever the increase is, our taxes will skyrocket. Community school, you again mentioned, it was restructured when I was on the Board of Ed. Again, I'm not hearing any initiative from you guys. This is what we are doing to save the money. I was here last time, and I did mention that the current Board of Ed you're violating your own class size policy, which says 22. Just because you think 18 or 19 kids in elementary school is a good idea, there is no research. Why you have 18 or 19, why not go to 14 or 15? Like if you look at the Ridgewood or so, other neighboring school, they have 22, 23 kids in the elementary school. Are your class sizes lower because you're reducing because of the type of, not the type of, like in the number of students left who have different needs, and that's why your class size is smaller? I'm not hearing anything. I'm only hearing expenses. There are people like us. Our kids are not there. We're also taxpayer. We're also funding. I think we need to come up with some plan to see these are the new initiative we are hearing. I did not hear about SREC, which is energy, solar energy, renewable energy credits that we have. How much is the credit? Did you sell that? What's the price on that? Where is that money? I didn't see that in the saving plan. So I think you guys doing your best, but it's not enough. I think we're trying to have we're just trying to please the parents here without taking any constructive plan, looking into the restructuring of the staff, optimization in the staff. It's just spending which is uncontrolled. I think you guys are smart enough. You guys have very different, diverse experience. You got to look into some opportunities that saves us some money. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. 8:32, seeing no additional members of the public, we can close our public hearing, or we can close our public hearing. So at this point, I would like to ask Mr. Canales, there were a few questions that just came up that you highlighted in your presentation, if you can touch on those.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Robinson. So first was the question on the vote because we're over 2%. As we went through in the slides, there are 4 adjustments that you could take to that 2% soft cap. If you fall within those 4, you do not need to go out to the public for a vote. If we were to increase the budget for reasons that are not within those 4 categories, then yes, we would have to go out for a vote. You're welcome. The person that had questions about how are we going to support those needs that come from the revised long-range facility plan. Well, one thing we can continue to do is to budget and prioritize where we put money, but I think really the answer there is the last bullet on our future considerations, and that is to start putting together the plan for 33-34 of how we would launch a referendum to hit a lot of those items. Cost for security. So when this budget was initially crafted, it did not have armed security, but I have gone back into the budget and I do not foresee an issue finding and funding the incremental increase that'll be there. It's not so much. It's about $3 an hour for each of our security guards and about $7,000 to $10,000 in insurance costs and some other sundry items that might have to be thrown in there, which we don't think is really going to add up to much. To the question about savings. So I think we have addressed that actually and highlighted it in B&G alone. If we look at what the building costs are over the last couple of years, they are astronomical. Price out a piece of lumber, a 2x4, 4 years ago to what that 2x4 costs today, and there's a significant increase. We have kept the B&G budget flat. So we have absorbed all of those inflationary pressures that occurred through COVID and have kept that B&G budget flat by bringing jobs in-house. We also, this year, we purchased a 52 or 54 passenger bus as a result of not a great situation, but an opportunity. we are going to use that bus to offset some of our transportation costs for athletic events. So we anticipate that that bus will be running almost every day from September to June in each season. So that is going to be a considerable savings there. Our hope is to then expand that, maybe add 2 buses, so that maybe, I think right now we could probably transport anybody but the football team and the marching band. If we had 2 buses, we could probably do everybody, and then maybe even begin to do like trips and things of that nature during the day and save parents some money on the costs that would need there. We are also constantly looking for what I like to talk to Mr. Van Nast about, nibbling along the edges, cuts that maybe you don't see but begin to add up. So for instance, last year we did a Verizon audit on our POTS lines, which are like the old analog telephone lines. That audit produced $35,000 in savings, right? So boom, that's for us. This year, coming in September, the board has approved a new copier lease. That new copier lease, once we get to the full savings of it, will save us $30,000 a year. So we're always looking for those. We take full advantage of E-rate, and E-rate is a national program offered by the government for technology spending, where we get money back on, say, our broadband subscriptions or on technology that we purchase. So we're certainly pursuing those to the fullest extent. Unfortunately, the SRECs that you mentioned, the district purchased outright the solar panels, and those solar panels are beyond their useful life. They are currently only producing about 1% of our electrical consumption. So there are no SRECs SRECs aren't being generated, okay? So the plan, right, in the near future, right, is to possibly enter into a power purchase agreement whereby we could replace the panels on the building, but not at our cost, and we won't own them, but somebody will, and then they will offer us, in return, discounted electrical rates for a period of time. That seems to be the best and most economical way to finance solar at this point. So we're certainly going to continue to look into that. We just, actually later on this evening, we'll find out the results of our reverse auction on natural gas. We came in at a net increase of about 8.1% over year, where most of us are seeing, double digits, closer to 20% on their natural gas bills. We'll have cost certainty for 3 years or 36 months at that 8.1%. So we are moving in a very calculated, fiscally sound manner. There just isn't that much to save unless we begin to talk about headcount. And we continuously look for ways to save, but you saw it. It's 88% of my total budget is, salaries and benefits. So that's really the place. And if we were to receive that direction from the board, we would obviously look into those areas. But there's not a day that goes by that we are not looking to save money. And I think I have answered all the questions.
Yes, I believe so. All right. I need a motion to close the public hearing. Ms. Calvé, seconded by Mr. Tang. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve resolutions B1 through B2 as listed below. Mr. Hayward, seconded by Ms. Stevenson.
We need a verbal on this.
Okay. I guess calling roll, if we can, please. Well, yes.
We can.
Yes.
We opened it up earlier, but you could open it again.
If you have, would you like to say something?
Yes, so the previous or the initial vote was 5-4, and I don't know when it was the last time it was 5-4 in Glen Rock, but I was hoping that the numbers and the 4 votes will be heard, and there will be some change between the 2 periods. Unfortunately, that did not happen, and therefore I have to vote no. This is not a criticism, and I think I said it last time, and it's not criticism of administration or Mr. Canales, it's a criticism of the board. It's our duty and it's our responsibility to look for saving and to push for saving and cuts, and so I don't believe that we did it. But again, thank you, Mr. Canales, for all the hard work, and appreciate all the things.
Can we call roll, please?
Mr. Cohen?
No.
Mr. Corey?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Ms. Parlamis?
No.
Dr. Pucci Bender?
No.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Tang? No. Ms. Calvez?
Yes.
Dr. Robinson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
On to our next order of business, which is National Teachers' Day. I will need a motion to approve the following resolution as we will read it. I'll start off with whereas teachers make public schools great, and
Whereas teachers work to open students' minds to ideas, knowledge, and dreams, and
Whereas teachers keep American democracy alive by laying the foundation for good citizenship, and
Whereas teachers fill many roles as listeners, explorers, role models, motivators, and mentors, and
Whereas teachers continue to influence us long after our school days, our only memories, and
Whereas teachers mold future citizens through guidance and education, and
Whereas teachers encounter students of widely differing backgrounds, and
whereas our country's future depends upon providing quality education to all students, and
whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, and performing community service, and
whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers in educating the children of this community. Now, therefore,
be it resolved that the Glen Rock Board of Education recognizes and acknowledges the impact of teachers on our lives.
can I get a motion to approve the resolution? Mr. Cohen, seconded by Ms. Parlamis. If we could call a roll, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
yes.
Ms. Parlamis?
yes.
Dr. Pucci Bender?
yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
yes.
Mr. Tang?
yes.
Ms. Calvez?
Yes.
Dr. Robinson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the following resolution as it's read? Whereas children are the future, and by investing in them today, we are ensuring our world for tomorrow, and
Whereas all students have a right to have their health needs safely met while in the school setting, and
Whereas children today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in schools, and
Whereas school nurses are professional nurses that advance the well-being, academic success, and lifelong achievements of all students by serving on the front lines and providing a critical safety net for our nation's most fragile children, and
Whereas school nurses act as a liaison to school community, parents, and the healthcare providers on behalf of children's health. And
Whereas school nurses support the health and educational success of children and youth by developing and providing programs and leadership, and
Whereas school nurses are members of school-based mental health teams, and
whereas school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to make a positive difference for our children every day. Now, therefore,
Be it resolved that the Glen Rock Board of Education joins the National Association of School Nurses, the New Jersey State School Nurses Association, and the Bergen County School Nurses Association in celebrating and acknowledging the accomplishments of school nurses and their efforts of meeting the needs of today's students by improving the effective delivery of healthcare in our schools, and shows gratitude for school nurses not just on May 6, 2026, National School Nurse Day, but at every opportunity throughout the year. I need a motion to approve the resolution. We have Dr. Pucci Bender, seconded by Mr. Tang. Can I do roll call, please?
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Ms. Parlamis?
yes.
Dr. Pucci Bender?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Tang?
Yes.
Ms. Calvez?
Yes.
Dr. Robinson?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you.
Sure. So I'll be brief with my report today. I do want to congratulate teachers for National Teacher Day tomorrow and the nurses the following day, because the work they do really, really, truly is important, and it's why we're here. And one of the great pleasures of my job is I get to go into classrooms a lot and see the real good work that's happening. The video that James showed earlier, I think, gave you like a little peek into kind of what's going on here at the middle school and high school, and it's just great stuff, and that's led by our teachers, and it's led by, the students are supported by our nurses. It's wonderful. It's a little bit sad in my world that we're doing NJSLA testing and AP testing during this week while we're doing that, because that's not really what drives us as teachers, but it's one of those things. So last week we had NJSLA testing up at the middle school, high school. It went smoothly. I think they told me we have about a dozen that need to do makeups this year, but that's a really good number. Kids who are showing up and taking the test seriously, which is what we want. The testing is happening this week at the elementary schools for NJSLA, and up here at the high school we have AP testing going on right now. So there's a lot of important stuff going on right now. And then the last thing I just want to say is congratulations to all of the teachers who are being reappointed today, including I think the count is 32 teachers who are going to be earning tenure in the fall, which is fantastic. We're proud to bring them on again and continue working together.
All right, thank you. So, we received an email. I just want to kind of highlight this because it is one of our teachers, and this was kind of like a nice special thing. Hold on, I'm just pulling it up right now. So this afternoon, I received an email about Mrs. Rebecca Tell, if I can share. I thought it was just a really nice special touch. Hello all, I just wanted to make you aware of a teacher who went out of her way to cheer on my daughter in one of her last softball games as a senior at GRHS. Mrs. Rebecca Tell was the second grade teacher for my daughter and son at Central, an outstanding teacher and a very favorite of ours. On this Friday night, I walked past the dugout in Waldwick to watch my daughter play, and she yelled from the dugout, "Mom, Mrs. Tell is here." She came to watch me play. On this Friday night, on her day off, Mrs. Tell went and witnessed a student game, and it had a very positive impact on the student in question and perhaps many of the other students around. And it was just really a nice touch that not only Mrs. Tell, but many of our teachers do, and we're really appreciative of our educators here, and I'm just thrilled to be able to share that news in person today. So thank you, Mrs. Tell, from the bottom of my heart.
Yes, she is wonderful, and she is one of our elementary coaches. She's at Hamilton School, so she's absolutely one of our great teacher leaders and just a wonderful person.
All right. So in addition, we rolled out the website this week. We just rolled out the website, a new website, which we're hoping will be much more streamlined for for our community. I had a chance to download the app myself, and I was able to look at some of the things at Central and actually put them on my calendar where my daughter goes to school. So I thought that that was also well executed. I think that with any new rollout, if there's any glitches or any things that people notice or think that have an opportunity to be improved, please do share that feedback with us as we test out the rollout. But, you know, again, thank you so much to Ms. Hopkinsberger with all of the work that she's been doing over the past year, if not year and change, to get this done. I know this is something that she had mentioned when she first came on, and I'm glad that it was able to be done.
Yeah, she did a great job rolling that out. It did go live on Friday. And yeah, as you said, if there are any things that we can't find, some things got moved to a different department. We created a few things to sort things out. So it may take a little bit of time to find the things if you're used to it, like I just go to the right same spot and all that. But if there's some trouble navigating, reach out and we can make it more streamlined and make it more user-friendly, absolutely.
Absolutely, thank you. I know a member of the public had asked for updates with regards to the superintendent search. As stated in the last meeting, right now we are deliberating what the search calendar looks like. So yes, we do have a company that we've hired, Ms. Kathleen Hallowell, and search, like a calendar framework has been delivered to us, and now we have to create that calendar. And again, a calendar is a guideline. It means that, you know, these are the kinds of things that we are either striving for, but, you know, life throws us curves, and so we adjust left and right as needed. So that's where we are. Right now, she's looking at implementing a survey system so that the members of the public can provide input into, you know, like the types of things that you want to be able to see in the school district going forward, the types of things that you want to see in our next superintendent. There will be an opportunity for a public session as well as the survey that will be open. The tentative date for that is May 21st. And that's the opportunity where students or staff or as well as parents and members of the community would be able to provide input depending on the time frame, but that would all be published once confirmed. And then it's an ongoing process. So, you know, like we're looking forward to participation from the community, from all members of the community, from, you know, GREA members, GRAA, our parents, our students, our members of the community who may not have children in the school district. We're looking forward to robust participation from everyone in helping to guide that document so that we make sure that when the board is, you know, sitting down and considering candidates over, you know, the next, you know, several months and onward, that we are, you know, keeping the things that you are presenting to us in mind. To make sure that this next individual is a really strong fit for the community. So looking forward to everyone's participation on that process. At this point, that's all I have so far. So we will open up the next, okay.
I think that it would be important for the parents, the community to realize that they're to watch for the website because more information will be following through the website. Am I correct?
I think it'll be, so there will absolutely be information on the website, but I think that in terms of like the date and stuff like that, I think there will be a direct blast that we'll put out as well, like a district notification so that people make sure, because I know, especially with the new website, that it might not be fully seen that way. Like information absolutely will be shared about if there's an interim or the actual posting for a superintendent. There will all be pop-up information as well as on social media. And you know, we work so well with the borough. I will definitely share the information with the borough to see if there's a way that information can be shared in their like newsletter and things like that, just to get like as wide dissemination as possible, because as you know, like we don't have access to their listserv, but looking forward to like sharing it out in as many places as possible. All right. Our public comment session is going to be open here at 8:55 on board action items only. Please state your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes. Again, this is for board action items only.
For all agenda items?
For action items.
Agenda.
Or agenda.
No, for the resolutions. For anything for which,
Yeah, so
for
all of
anything for
our,
which there'll be a vote on tonight,
our
so
voting
action
items.
items only. There'll be another, I imagine you want to talk about the renaming?
Yes.
It would be best to wait for the second one for that. Thank you.
all right, seeing no members of the public for action items, we'll close that at 8:55. All right, on to our personnel discussions. So assuming there's no other old business or anything, I can just move to the, okay. Can I get a motion to approve the resolutions for P1 through P14? Ms. Calvé, seconded by Mr. Hayward. All right, any questions or comments on P1 through P14? All right. If you can call roll, please.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Hayward,
Yes.
Ms. Parlamis,
Yes.
Dr. Pucci Bender,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Tang,
Yes.
Ms. Calvez,
Yes.
Dr. Robinson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. I'm actually going to go ahead and skip to the motion to approve resolution for G1, and then I will also then bring up just something with regards to board committees. Well, actually, no, that's going to be on the governance. We put that on G. All right. Can I get a motion to approve G1? Ms. Parlamis, seconded by Mr. Cohen. Any questions or comments regarding policy 0155? All right, well, I look forward to moving towards committees with you all. If you can please call roll.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Hayward,
Yes.
Ms. Parlamis,
Yes.
Dr. Pucci Bender,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Tang,
Yes.
Ms. Calvez,
Yes.
Dr. Robinson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Excellent, thank you. So under governance, I wanted to talk about like board committee planning, because now that, you know, we've just approved 0155, we need to kind of come up with a scheme for like how our meetings are going to go and what they're going to look like. Again, just like we stated at the beginning, you know, we're not trying to, when I say add more and more and more meetings, or let's say make this laborious and meet in that manner, but I think that in order for us to get our business done and make sure that we have a regular schedule with the various committees and to figure out the naming of the exact committees and like all of those things, you know, like I would like some feedback. So I'd given, like I would say, probably within 2 months or so, just kind of like a general framework of like the types of committees or the names of committees that we would want and how many we want and things like that. I'll just send that out again, and I would like input there so that we can, you know, really formulate what committees those are, what the meeting schedule may look like, come up with a meeting schedule, make sure that it's meeting our intent, and then, you know, go from there. So that we can make the change over time. All right, any questions, comments? Okay, all right. As well, I would like to know kind of like what your thoughts are on a board retreat. So part of the, aside from like our standard, you know, like summer goals session, I would like to do some sort of like board retreat again, you know, and I say again because like I've wanted to do this kind of retreat for a while, but like also have a third party come in and help us be more effective at governance, at board conflict resolution and various things. So one, I wanted to get your support to investigate that. I asked Ms. Hellowa if she had any knowledge of a variety of like individuals that could come through and speak to our board and lead us through a retreat. I had spoken about, like, I had asked Corn Ferry, who they do leadership trainings and things like that to a variety of sectors, and I had, like just had a preliminary conversation, and that was outside of our price bracket. So wanted to know like what your thoughts are on perhaps getting an outside, company that may be specific to public education in that sector. Is there support for that? Just like a straw poll, yes or no? Okay, all right. So I'll like since. Oh, yes. Thank you. Dan.
Is that to me? Yeah, thanks. I think what we did last year was I appreciate the effort that you put into doing that. Maybe sharing some specific achievements you want to accomplish out of a retreat would be helpful to get some ideas out of the board themselves. We know each other quite well, and icebreakers aren't necessarily something that we need to do, but I think we had a presentation a couple meetings ago where we talked about the ethics. I think things that are really actionable and tractionable for this group would be the most helpful in a retreat. So just if you want to share agenda items, I know it's your agenda, but I'm happy to kind of give feedback on that as we get towards the date. That was my own comment.
Absolutely. I can definitely say that, like part of the superintendent search process and some of even the questions that we had, maybe even after some of the presentations were done, at the time that we were hiring, it was kind of like, well, is this a place where the board, can potentially come together and, really work towards like, our objective, which is hiring a superintendent. Out of that, I know Ms. Hellowa had expressed that, like there were various places that we would be able to be aligned. And I was looking for a board retreat specifically to help us along becoming a better board, and then allowing Ms. Hellowa to like focus specifically on anything with regards to superintendent, and then just like drilling down to actually like board business. As a board retreat. We had, a few years ago, we had a board retreat in this room. I think it was over the summer, and we did have somebody come in and deliver information through a variety of groups. There were members of the community, members of HSA, members of town council, like a variety of things. I thought that was very beneficial at the time. We talked about kind of things that were maybe a little bit strategic, and got a sense of understanding like some of the different things that go on in the building. That's not necessarily what I'm looking for this next retreat. For this next retreat, I would like to focus on somebody that knows from a like board perspective, like how we could work more efficiently. Maybe that's NJSBA, like the presentation that we just had that spoke about, creating that kind of like code of, what did she use? What word did she use? The rules, like the board. It was like, no, there was like whatever. Yeah, but you guys know what I mean. Like she said, like we could work on something like that. Like so, I think that the exact agenda will be defined as well based on the expertise of the person. So I will provide a variety of people, and then you guys can help me decide who it's going to be. All right. INP, cursive, and summer work.
All right. So a couple things to do with instruction and programming. So first is cursive, which is back, apparently. So Governor Murphy signed S 1783 in January before his term ended. And what it does is it mandates that schools reintroduce cursive writing for grades 3 through 5 effective September of 2026. And so we've been looking into how to do that. And I asked the very real question of, I mean, we're hiring teachers that are younger than my son right now, and my son doesn't know how to write in cursive. You know, are we sure that our teachers know how? You know, so of course, he also didn't become an elementary school teacher, so maybe he self-selected. Anyway, so what we need to do is make sure that we're geared up to be ready for this. And so our elementary supervisor, Nicole Hirsch, put together a committee of folks to look at various handwriting programs. The committee included some elementary teachers, an elementary coach, a teacher of LLD, learning language disabled, a couple occupational therapists, because, you know, this is their specialty, you know, hand-eye and how do you form letters and such, and she was on the committee too. So they reviewed several different programs, making sure that to see what fit best with our school and our dynamics, and also to make sure that they will meet the law, the letter of the law. Sorry, couldn't resist. They reviewed several programs, including Handwriting Without Tears, Danielian, and Zahner Bloser. They had a matrix. They did all the evaluation of that and chose Handwriting Without Tears. It looks like the strongest things for it were they just really appreciate the instructional design of the program. The accessibility, inclusivity of it was ranked very high in their scoring, and they feel like the ease of implementation and kind of the technology that comes with it works really well with what we're doing. So we're going to have on the agenda for your approval next meeting the contract or the purchase order or whatever it is with Handwriting Without Tears. We're going to sign on for a 5-year agreement, which lowers the price per year considerably, which is what we want, but they also will bill us annually, which is what he wants. So everything's good here. We're also going to contract with professional development during those PD days in September to make sure that our staff are familiar with how it works, and maybe if they're like my son, teach them how to write in cursive for, you know, crash course in a day. Again, he's working on a farm right now. He's not doing cursive. I don't think the pig cares. Anyway, the way we're going to roll this out, because it's grades 3, 4, and 5 is what the program is for. In the first year, we're going to have grades 3 and 4 both teach the 3rd grade curriculum, right? Because those 4th graders won't have had anything. And the 5th graders will do the 4th grade curriculum, because the 3 is probably a little too juvenile for them and they'll be able to catch up quickly. And then in year 2, everybody will be on their regular thing. The price quote that we have does include the 5th grade materials, even though we won't use them till the 2nd year. The direct instruction of it is pretty minimal. We're not doing, you know, hour-long handwriting lessons. It's pretty short mini lessons, which should fit nicely into our literacy flex period, which is built into the school week for elementary. And then daily practice can be picked up during various other times of the school day, including the WIN period or other kind of literacy blocks. So I think it's going to fit in okay. It's just a little bit strange to have this on our radar, but this is where we are. So like I said, we'll have it well, there you go. We'll have it on the agenda on the 18th for your approval. Okay. The second thing for instruction and programs.
Mr. Van Nest, I was just going to comment that
I hear a voice, but I didn't know who's speaking. Yeah, sorry.
I was just going to comment, I applaud that effort very much, coming from having to train my children how to figure out how to do a signature. All these kids don't know how to do signatures if they don't know cursive, and you sign things your whole life, so this is a great skill set.
I'm sure Governor Murphy is happy. I think, yeah.
I have to add, thank you for opening the door for that. As a former elementary principal for 13 years and then into the superintendency, that was a must. We never stopped, and I am so happy to hear that the state has decided to correct the mistake that was made.
Okay, good. Moving on, the second thing for INP is just kind of give a heads up, especially to those folks that are newer to the board. Every year we have considerable amount of work that happens over the summer that we bring teachers in for curriculum writing, for example, to write cursive curriculum for the year, and you familiarize yourselves. There are updates to standards frequently from the state, such as the science standards are being updated this year, and so we have to do that. And this work is led primarily by our supervisors, either either the elementary supervisor or the subject supervisor. And we bring in teachers to do a lot of the work because it's really valuable to have their hands on it and their voices heard and their expertise as part of it. What happens is about now, a few weeks ago, I shared with the supervisors and directors, the same spreadsheet that I always do, which is put forth your requests. Who's coming in? How many hours do you need? All of that. And we budget for it every year. And then it's an issue of kind of prioritizing and people, aim high with their requests, and I have to talk them down a little bit. Some of it we're able to do during the school year, which is especially, think of a high school teacher after the AP tests are done. Like, we can pull them from class for a day and work on some of these things. But a lot of it really does have to happen over the summer. So we'll be doing that. So that'll probably be on I think we usually have you all approve that in June, but I just want to give you the heads up that we're already talking about that and moving forward with what are we prioritizing right now, and I'll get that to you as a draft, probably at the June Cal, and then you'll vote on the June 18th meeting or 20th or whatever that is. Okay. And I think that's all I have for INP.
All right, thank you so much. Seeing nothing in special services, if we can go on to management and community, are we able to actually discuss the renaming first instead of the policy? Because I know, Mr. Corey just texted me that he has only a few more minutes on his
You bet.
battery.
I don't mind at all. Okay, so last meeting I gave you a report that summarized the committee's work. So, excuse me, just to recap, we had a request from a community member, John Cole, to consider renaming Central School, and the board put together a committee. We met twice as a committee online. We hosted an in-person session. We did a survey. And so I gave you a report last meeting that summarized the committee's work. And there are a few things that I really want to just emphasize again, that there was strong participation in the survey. 417 people responded, which is a really positive number, right? Too often I think people, if they're not really interested in something, they just don't fill out the survey. So we see that there's real interest and real some passion behind this, honestly. Overall, if you look at the 417 responses, there is support. The majority supports renaming Central Elementary School to the Thomas L. Hawkins Central Elementary School. But when I started pulling the numbers out a little bit more, looking at folks that are currently at Central, meaning the parents of current students or the current staff or teachers there, versus those who identified as not being currently at Central, there was actually a big difference between those two groups, in that the folks currently at Central do not want to rename the school, and the folks who are not currently at Central do, by a wide majority. So we as a committee didn't come up with a thumbs up, thumbs down vote on this, because we really believe that the board needs to weigh the perspectives and the significance of both of those groups, right? This is, you are the board representing this community, and it's kind of a decision that you have to make about, do we value the general sense of the community, or do we value the people who are in the building, or it's really up to you. And so that's where I want to just leave it with you and let you speak about it.
Thank you. I'd like to start with Mr. Corey, since he was our representative to this committee. Mr. Corey, if you have a moment.
Yeah, sure. I'll be succinct, and I'll say I want to thank some of my colleagues on the board as well who also participated in. So it wasn't just me. We have a bit of color across the committee. Mr. Van Ness, I think you pointed out the data very well, that it doesn't show a clear direction between populations. I have to step back and realize that as a board, as a school district, we are but a small portion of the community, but this is the portion of the community that we represent. I do see. Let me say, I've met one of the Tuskegee Airmen. I know somebody who survived the Pearl Harbor attack as a black serviceman, and I'm very honored to know that this is something that the community considers and values. When I think of the policy that we created, not to name buildings, but in order to establish a process and to make sure that we're doing this in a fair and responsible way, what I was looking for out of the committee was clear direction in a recommendation, and I did see clear interest, but I didn't see a clear direction for what the committee should be able to recommend to the board. The board, as we just established committees, we're trusting on those committees to be the detailed eyes and ears on specific issues. And my sense out of this committee was that this is something that portions of the community value, but it's not something that we would want to do necessarily to the key part of the community that we're actually representing, meaning the central school community. I'll go off script and outside of my role. I'd love to see something in town specifically to address this, but it wasn't abundantly clear to me, and that was the threshold I was looking for, that this is the action that needs to be done at this particular location at this particular time. Those are my thoughts, and I think not representative of the entire committee, but that was my role to be on this committee on behalf of this board, and wanted to be very clear with all that for all of us. So that's my statement.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Corey even about the process within the committee, or Mr. Van Ness, or anything like that? All right. Any comments, or go ahead.
Okay, so I am not opposed, let me start off by saying, I am not opposed to naming anything after anyone, especially for such admirable folks. However, I do bring to light that it is an extremely complicated situation to rename a school building, right down to something as what may seem as insignificant as letterhead. It also goes into postal. I think that there are so many other just as admirable ways of identifying someone who is deserving of such, such a statement. And I think that one way might be perhaps if the school does not have a gym named after someone, maybe the gym could be named after them, maybe a wing, or I think that there are many ways to, just bring to light those that have served us and served us so eloquently well. But I think that naming the school, while I'm not against it, I just feel that I think that it's a tremendous undertaking, and I think people need to understand that it is a huge task to rename a school.
Thank you.
I also went through it with a private school that went to become it was a private school building, and we took it over from making an elementary school for the public school, and that was trying to get it straight, even with UPS deliveries, was insane.
Thank you.
I just have a question. I don't know if you have an answer for Greg. I should have thought of this sooner. On the state level, because all the schools are named, do we have to go through a process to have it officially renamed on a state level? And does anybody know what that process looks like? As Ed's shaking his head, yes.
Been through it, yes. You have to submit it to the state and formally change the name of the school, and it goes on your state reports, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not an overnight process. It was probably part of the LRFP, I think, somehow, related to that plan, which is an official state document and has to get submitted and approved by the state and come back.
It's a lot.
From a mechanical standpoint, that's, yeah.
Ms. Parliamus.
I have 2 points. One, I believe on the cost that Dr. Pucci-Bender is referencing, the survey did, Mr. Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, there was an individual who was willing to donate the estimated $12,000 costs that would go into the renaming. Is that accurate? Is there a committed person for the costs, or would there be?
There was somebody who volunteered to start the fundraising, and he volunteered $1,000 towards that estimate. That was at the public meeting, somebody offered that.
Okay. And then I also, is it not possible to do a phase-in on some of the costs, like the letterhead? You can just use up all your existing letterhead and then move to the new name when you go to reorder to minimize costs. Is that also feasible?
I just don't know how long the process takes. Perhaps you have a better understanding, because I don't know from start to finish how that would work.
I have not renamed a building, so I don't know. But I believe all of these things are possible, yes. We can burn through our letterhead, and we can, yes, I agree. All things are possible. I just don't know what the time frame for any of that would be.
And was it regarding the letterhead?
I'm sorry.
Oh, and then I just also wanted to give more of a landscape picture to this whole thing. I did take a look at what the landscape looks like in Bergen County for schools and naming, and I said, how many schools actually are named after somebody? And as it turns out, in Bergen County, high schools are not typically named after anybody. It's elementary schools, and it's 60% on average of elementary schools in Bergen County are named after somebody. Now, of that, about 90% are named after white males. And then you start looking at furthermore who's the minority look, And from there, it's a very small fraction who are actually named after minorities. It's on average about 3.5% of elementary schools in Bergen County are named after a minority. So if you take a look at that number, 273 elementary schools, you would estimate about 10% are named after minority, but that's not the case in Bergen County. Only 2 schools in Bergen County are named after minorities of elementary schools, from what I could find, and that's in Englewood and in Leonia. So here we are with, a really unique opportunity to name after someone quite worthy and from Glen Rock, I would say. He would represent, if we named it, it would be a 0.07% representation in Bergen County to name an elementary school after a minority figure, which I think is a pretty unique thing and kind of cool.
Thank you.
So as a veteran, I respect the efforts and I appreciate all the work that has been done and the will and the idea behind the community of making the change for a hero and somebody who was part of the community. That being said, as a parent in Central School, I see the data and I see what the parents in the schools are saying, and there's a clear objection to that. I did not see the factors from the school coming in to talk to us, not the HSA, not the administration. There's no push from the Central School community, and I think this will push something on a community that does not want it. I do like Angela's ideas of calling a wing or the library. There's other ways to honor the person, and I think that's the path that I would recommend.
Thank you.
So I feel like there's consensus on doing something to honor and recognize a worthy person. But I think given all the other conversations that we've had tonight relative to the budget and priorities and things that are happening, I just don't know that I would be, well, I know I wouldn't be in support of putting resources towards something like this at this time. I would support doing something in the community, in the broader community. I think that would make more sense. And that's how I feel at this point in time. Thank you.
All right.
And just a comment on I'm not opposed to naming auditoriums or libraries after somebody, but I think if it's somebody that the town wants to honor and we feel should be honored, if it's inside the building that way, if it's in the auditorium or if it's a library, not every student is going to know that person. And if our goal is to have everybody know who this person was and their historical significance, I think it has to be outside, somewhere outside. If the town did something, if we, if we're not going to agree to rename the school, I think the more people that can learn about him, the better off we will all be.
Thank you. Just 1 second. I'll be right with you. Mr. Corey, are you able to, as a liaison to the council, even talk about, I guess, talk with the school board liaison and kind of get a sense of if there would be a possibility to coordinate with the borough on something, just so that we could have that information come back to us as a board as part of our continuing discussion?
Just to clarify, you're saying my role as liaison to town council?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't aware of the appointment.
Well,
I am the liaison.
You-
Yes, I am.
So it's Rab. Okay, that's why. Okay, my
Rab,
fault.
yes.
It's because Rab. It is late. It is late. I've been up
It's
since
late
in the
here
morning.
too.
I will
Ms.
liaise.
Paramus,
I will
would you-
liaise with the town council.
Thank you.
But since I'm temporarily deputized in the role. We don't control things outside of the school district here. I think kind
Yeah.
of dovetails into what I was saying before. I did hear that somebody was interested in making a generous donation, though $1,000 isn't anything to turn away. It certainly doesn't go as far as it used to or might need to. It's outside of our role to solicit donations and name the town's public library, but given the budget constraints, that might be a philanthropic effort that the entire town could get around. But this is not something that our policy allows us to discuss. And frankly, the process that we went through of renaming the school didn't really give latitude, because we followed our own rules to then provide alternatives of, say, a library or a playground. And Cameron, I really like the idea of something outside. As you pointed out, somebody has to go inside the building to see this, and we can do this. Things can be done in a way where they're public and visible. Anyway, if the library could fill part of their budget challenge this year through some type of process like this, the town public library, I'm saying that would be fantastic. I think that would be a value accretive opportunity for the town in that way. This is a challenge here more that we don't really have that latitude to touch on, other than just kind of talk about it. Thanks.
Yes, agreed. I think that the goal is really just having having the conversation, communicating. Yes, our official policy was created with the goal of us having a process if this request should come to us, but also being the board, we're able to talk about things that, we're passionate about. And through this process, we've also gotten to learn a lot more about the outstanding human that Mr. Hawkins was. And so I think, just like what Ms. Calvé said and what many of you have already stated, is that we do want to find a way to honor him and learn more about him, and have that be part of the thread of our community, and have that be something that, not just central students learn about, but maybe something that members of the borough can learn more about. And I think that we can find a way to do that, if not through this specific policy, but maybe in coordination with administration and our borough administration. Did you want to say?
Yeah, no, I was thinking about, there's some towns and some streets, sections are named, as a sub-name after people. And so because Central School is in Maple, which is a generic name, it could be a subsection of the street could be named after Mr. Hawkins. So that could be a solution that the address.
Hawkins Square. Or
Right. So that could be a perfect solution with the town, if they'll agree to that.
Yeah. So I look forward to, I guess, getting creative here. Part of it is that, we still do have our public comments section on this portion of our agenda. So, we want to hear from any members of the community that want to speak on this, to make sure that our decision is informed through that. But looking forward to, I guess, the next step, whatever that is. All right. So we'll continue we'll take the information, the members of the public will have the opportunity as well to write in. And then I think that by the next, board meeting, whether on the agenda or through old business, we will conclude this part of our inquiry. Okay? All right. Cell phone policy?
Cell phone policy. Okay. So as you know, also before Governor Murphy's term ended, he signed into law about cell phone usage in schools. And we started working on that, about what implementation would look like at the middle and high school. As you know, currently cell phones are banned in the middle school from when they get here till when they leave, but it's more complicated for high school students. So the initial information from the state indicated that we would not be able to comply with the mandate by using the same policy that we use for middle school. We'd have to do something more restrictive. So what we looked into, you've probably heard about them, they're these pouches that a kid puts their phone into and their smartwatch into, and then they lock it, and it's, I guess, a Faraday cage, so it's inoperable at this point. They keep it with them, and the only way they can unlock the pouch is through a super magnet, like you do the department store, a little thing that they have to undo to get the tag off your clothes that you buy, something like that. So we got quotes from, we talked to some of the reps from a couple different companies. We got a quote. We were about to start processing it. And then we got a notification from Strauss Esme that basically said, we need to hold off a little bit. So this is what they wrote. They said that the NJSA's 183640B indicates a policy shall, at minimum, prohibit non-academic use of internet-enabled devices on school grounds during the school day. However, the recent guidance for schools on the student use of internet-enabled devices, published by the New Jersey Department of Education in January of 26 on page 2, indicates in bold, quote, at a minimum, schools must prohibit the use of personal internet-enabled devices during the entirety of the school day for students in grades K through 12, end quote. They continue, Strauss continues saying, there have been discussions within the state that the statute was intended to only prohibit the non-academic use of internet-enabled devices during classroom instruction, and non-academic use of internet-enabled devices may be permitted by a board for age-appropriate students during certain times during the school day, such as study halls, lunch, and other non-instructional times. It is believed the inconsistency between the legislation and the DOE guidance is going to be addressed in a communication to school districts from the state in the very near future. They say that this is a significant issue that needs to be resolved before the board review process. Strauss Esme is ready to release a new policy and regulation guide addressing student use of internet-enabled devices as soon as clarification is provided. So we don't want to spend the money on these pouches until we get that clarification from them, especially since, but I did want to bring this up, that these pouches are like $30 a piece. So they're not cheap. For all of our middle and high school students, it would be about $42,000, something like that, which we don't have in our budget. So it'd probably be something like we do for the technology fee, where the parents need to pay the $30. And that $30 would go for sixth grade all the way through senior year, right? It's not $30 every year, but otherwise it's a big chunk of money. So we don't want to spend that. We don't want to talk about it. We want to move forward until we get much clearer guidance from Strauss, because if it's that we can do something very much like we do at the middle school now, which is in your lockers, turn them off, not have to be this restrictive, but still have a policy that restricts cell phone use, right? Then we'll go down that route. If we have to be as restrictive as the initial guidance is, then we're going to have to go down the route of these pouches or something. So that's where we are. We were hoping, because we thought we had to do the pouches, we're hoping to process the PO right now, because I think there's going to be a shortage of these pouches in a few months when everybody figures this out, and we wanted to get ahead of the curve, but we also don't want to spend a lot of money on pouches that we might not need. So that's where we are with cell phone, and we're just waiting on the state, as often is the case. Christine, yeah.
Would the $30 fee be optional? Because not all kids have cell phones.
So it would be optional in the sense that if you don't want to pay it, don't bring your phone, right? That is how you're opting out. You're not going to have a phone. And we always, for something like this, the technology fee, prom, all these other things, for folks that $30 is a hardship, we find ways for that. We have fundraising and such for those kind of things. But absolutely, if you opt not to because your child doesn't have a cell phone, we're not going to collect $30 from you, certainly.
So I totally understand, but regardless of the device or not, the law will say, or is saying that in class, there's no cell phones
Yes.
in high school.
Yep.
So the only question is what happens between classes, like what's the...
Yeah, how restrictive it has to be, and if it's shut off the whole day, we pretty much have to go down this route of pouches, because otherwise it's just really hard, much harder in the high school to monitor that.
Mr. Van Ness, could I interrupt? Is this for all phones or just smartphones?
This is for all internet-enabled devices, so it would be
Enabled
smartphones
devices, including
and
iPads.
watches and any of the devices that somebody could communicate with or connect to the internet with.
Okay, thank you
And
for the
the-
clarification.
And my
I also-
understanding is the pouch is big enough for both your phone and your watch.
Perfect. I just wanted to announce that, thank you all for enabling me to be able to participate tonight. I have 3% left on my device right now, and just letting you know, I'm going to have to drop out of the call at this time due to no purpose other than the fact that my device is failing. And again, thank you for allowing me to participate.
Thank you for joining us, Captain
Thank you.
Corey.
First, I think it's fiscally irresponsible of the state to push this on us. In the time of constrained budgets, et cetera, to spend any money on pouches to hold a device, in my mind, is just ridiculous. I do agree with no cell phones in school and no cell phones in class. If there were a way if we could do what we do in the middle school and just not allow it and have some sort of disciplinary repercussion, we'd be done with it. And anything beyond that, I think is silly. And hopefully they will get smart and change that law very quickly before the policies come out, because
I think
I'm avoiding it where I am. We were talking about it.
Yeah.
It's
to your point, Mr. Hayward, I think that if this is the path we had to go down, we could manage it here because we're a fairly small school and we could manage it. Schools of 3,000 or 4,000 students, like, I can't imagine the unlocking of each of those things each day. Like, it's just the logistics of that seem
And you can
wild.
cheat them, right? Kids are bringing 2 cell phones to school now. They find their old one, they put that in the bag, and they keep the other one in their pocket. None of these systems are perfect.
And the magnets, we know how they bypass it with the magnet. It's almost futile. I think a stronger code of conduct might solve the problem.
So that's where we are with cell phones.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that update. On to fiscal management, LRFP.
So if you aren't tired of hearing me, you will be tired by the end of this. A lot of this we kind of talked about as part of the budget process. So the long-range facility plan update, we are in the process of getting all of the projects estimated out by our architect. We hope to have something by Memorial Day weekend to share with the board, and then we can begin to lay out a plan moving forward. Very pleased to announce that our reverse auction on our natural gas was very successful. If you remember, you approved a strike price of 0.86, and we were able to get that price down to 0.789. That is reflective of an 8.1% increase on our natural gas, and that is going to be for a 36-month term. Things that are going to be on our next agenda, potentially there will be 14 time and material bid awards. This is what we've been talking about for the last couple of meetings, and where the board was kind enough to approve a resolution pleading with the legislature to reconsider S3041, but it doesn't seem as if that is being heard. So we have initiated the process of putting out time and material bids for all of our public works projects that could come up during a year, so that things can be addressed as quickly as possible. We will also have 2 contract renewals on the agenda. One for D&M transportation. We kind of talked about this, but on those athletic runs, that D&M is basically does the majority of our runs. So we expect that renewal to come through, and that would be at the consumer price index approved by the state for transportation. And then the other renewal will be our Pomptonian food service, and that is also constrained by CPI. So hopefully we will have both of those resolutions for your approval at the next meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Canales. All right, on to operations, the school security update. And so, like even So just to start that off and kick that off, like the email that had gone out last week in coordination with the school and police, I'm just going to say thank you, for sending that. I know that it might not answer all of the questions that the community has asked, but it was kind of like one of those first steps as part of this discussion as well.
Yeah. So when talking about school security, there are things we can share with the public, and there are things that we keep secure, right? That's just kind of how it has to be. But there are a lot of questions. And let me just kind of back up a little bit. On March 13th, we had that swatting incident here at the middle school, high school, which was, we've talked about it a couple times. At the March 23rd meeting, I spoke about that and talked about how we were reviewing our internal procedures and reviewing how we coordinate with the police department, and culminated with that letter there. I know it doesn't have as many details as some folks would like to read, but that's kind of the nature of security, right? We don't show all of our cards. But also behind the scenes, a lot of folks came out on the 23rd to talk about security, and a number of the people who spoke about arming our security guards or having armed guards here, and some spoke against it. And so Dr. Robinson asked me to start having conversations with administration and with staff, and just trying to get a feel for in the building where are we, where do we land with this. And so that's what we've been doing over the last month and a half or so. So I've been having a lot of conversations with Rob McCory, who's our director of security. We've had with him and Mr. Canellis conversations with the Glen Rock Police Department. I've had conversations with each of the building principals and various other administrators about this notion of should our security guards be armed. And I talked with the president of the GREA, Lisa Tomaselli, and asked her to reach out to her staff, to the staff here as well. So she did a survey last week of the GREA members. And I'll just not bury the lead anymore. In general, the staff and administration support arming our security guards, but we have concerns about the rollout and ongoing communication. When polled, a lot of the staff members said that they would feel safer if there were armed security in the building, but they also, and I share some of these concerns, about what does that do to the culture and the climate in the building, in the schools, to have children around that. The school climate impact is the most divisive issue, with views split between increased safety versus concerns about student comfort and trust in the school environment. There are worries about accidental discharge. There are worries about those kinds of things. By and large, though, the majority of staff and administration feel that the schools would be safer and don't have significant concerns about it. I'm going to point to Mr. Canellis real quick to talk about if the board were to decide to move in this direction, what would be the best fit for our district, because there are various opportunities that schools can use for armed security, and he'll just kind of run through kind of the list of them and what would probably fit best here in Glen Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Van Nest. So just so we're all on the same page in terms of the nomenclature, so there are two kinds of police presence in schools. And one is a SRO, or school resource officer. This is a full-time police officer that is assigned as their primary responsibility to be in the school district. They report to the chief of police. There is a cost sharing of the officer's salary and benefits between the district and the municipality. The second type is often called a SLEO 2. And a SLEO stands for a Special Law Enforcement Officer, and they are also sometimes called Class 2s. These are typically retired police officers who are working on a part-time basis for the police department, providing security in schools, in the courts, things of that nature. They have all of the powers of a police officer, including the ability to be armed, as an SRO would, because they are, in fact, a police officer, as well as making arrests. The third option is an expansion of what we have here today. So today, we have security guards. All of our security guards are retired police officers and from various different branches of the police across the state. And that was a very intentional hiring practice on our part in that we wanted our folks to be able to be armed if the day ever came that the board decided that they wanted to arm security. So Mr. McQuarrie has gone through, at times, what has been a very difficult process of hiring security guards because we wanted retired police officers, but they weren't carrying. But we have assembled a really a stellar group of individuals that provide security in every building to here up at the high school, middle school for our students. So what we would recommend, being that this has been the natural evolution of the job description, would be to arm our security guards who are in fact able to provide such services while being armed. In particular, Mr. McQuarrie, if I'm wrong, correct me there, SARA card, which enables them to be firearm carrying security. And that is what we would recommend, given the infrastructure that we have and the ability to pivot from where we are to wherever the board would like us to be in the future.
Thanks, Mr. Canales. So the last couple of things I'll say to the board, and if you have questions for me or James, or just this is the beginning of a conversation in public, is that if this is the direction the board wants to go, by all accounts, it needs to be done carefully. It needs to be done with the input of lots of stakeholders, which is why this is a discussion item today. We're not making decisions today, but this is a discussion. That the board needs to listen to the community and give the administration time to develop procedures and allow time for communication with families, with staff, with all that. Make sure that all of the things are in line. And we do believe that timeline-wise, if this is the direction the board wants to go, we would aim for a September implementation starting the year in this direction. So that's what I have for you.
Thank you both. Thank you for providing that information. I think that while this has never, this particular subject has never been, on our agenda in the past, what the board has done and previous boards have done is, seek to get a security survey. We did talk about the different things that we could do to either beef up our security in the school district and a variety of things that have occurred over the course of several years. So being here now is not really, I would say, surprising, but I think that the board has a lot of information to be able to figure out what the next appropriate step is. And that is why we're here today, to formally discuss it. And so again, I just want to make sure that everyone realizes that this is, while there's no safe spaces, really in this world, but we hope that our school is as close to that as it can be. And that does carry through to this conversation tonight. This is not a political discussion. This is, just us weighing, our responsibility as board members, as well as our own personal and family beliefs, as well as, just generally what we think the board should do going forward. So I want to just open up the floor for you all to share your thoughts.
I think that it's an unfortunate time that we have to actually even think these things through, because as, I'm a lot older than I think everybody sitting around this table. We didn't have to think about this when I went to school. Schools, hospitals, churches, synagogues were all safe places. However, that's not the world we live in today. I do believe, after serving many years with having, I will call them a form of police officer in the buildings that I worked in. It was a comfort for staff, and it also became part of our family, our school community family. They became part of us, and the kids looked up to them, just like back in the day when the police officers, they may even still do it today, and on the streets and towns, give out their baseball cards. Well, you know, children are very resilient, and children are very open-minded, more than I believe adults can be, and I think that they will gravitate towards this figure of authority and respect and also appreciation. So I am glad that we are at this crossroad thinking about this and seriously considering, because I think it's something that today's times, you know, we really do have to move forward.
Ms. Parliamus.
So, I think the community as a whole has spoken up, and I encourage the community to continue to do so. I was surprised when we first started getting all those emails, how many were yes and how many were basically no. And I did a little unofficial tally, and it was almost split, which is surprising to me. But I think the community is listening and watching and appreciates the due diligence that we're doing, and I'm glad that we're moving forward to get to a final resolution on this. And it is, I echo Dr. Pucci-Bender's sentiment that it is unfortunate times that we live in, but we have to act accordingly.
Ms. Stevenson.
Again, I agree. It is an unfortunate time that we have to have this discussion. My biggest concern, or one of my biggest concerns, would be the training that would be provided, because there's a difference between, working out with the general population than with students. And we have students that have diverse needs, diverse backgrounds, and I just would hope that there would be training so the officers would be, understand maybe if a kid looks like he's being defined, perhaps not, anything to be escalated or anything like that. So my concern would be the training that would be provided. And I think it would be nice if we just kept the guards that we had, because they probably already have relationships established in all the schools with the staff and with the students and with the parents. So I think that just to keep that continuity, I think, is an important thing.
Ms. Kelly?
Thank you. Yeah, so the idea of having armed professionals in the schools is something that keeps me up at night, certainly something that I am constantly thinking about. And thank you, Ms. Parliamus, for doing the unofficial tally. I did something similar, and realizing that I feel like there's no clear decision that I could just sit with and be like, okay, this isn't going to weigh heavily on my heart. I think as a mom of teenagers, I drive around a lot of kids. I've surveyed a lot of those kids. And I haven't found a student who has said to me, yeah, I'd be excited about that. But what I have heard is that they do have trust and faith in the security guards that are in the school now. And so I agree that it was a good setup that we had with the policy and the way that we're able to possibly arm these guards and keep them as the people who are carrying, if that turns out to be the case. So again, I think I feel like we're failing children in a way. There was Mr. Adrian Hunt Davies who was here, and he spoke very eloquently, and I tend to agree that I feel like we have a great community here, and we were kind of holding out against all these other communities that were like, yeah, let's, arm the security guards in schools. But again, my personal opinions, do not override my obligation to this community to do what I think folks are asking us to do. So just wanted to share very deeply and honestly how I'm feeling about this topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to talk about this as well.
Can you bring the mic closer?
Closer? All right, thank you. Still closer? There you go. All right, there you go. As I think some of the community members I spoke previously, I think I don't have anything really new to say, but I share the opinion, is there is no empirical evidence with control study that has shown armed security has stopped shooting. All the studies showing the results statistically are either neutral or slightly negative, right? I don't think it's hurting it. The negative is probably not a causal relationship. It's probably the more dangerous school, the more likely they're armed. But nevertheless, no study ever showed it does help to stop the shooting. So, right, as some example, I compare two states, Texas, where there are at least 10 school shootings in the past few years, I have found. But two of them are very famous, with like over 30 people killed. With New Jersey, 0, as much as I can find. I don't find any school shooting in New Jersey history of the state. Does that mean New Jersey schools are better armed than Texas? I don't think so, right? No. I even want to go on and say, at the risk of being criticized as being political, I think the evidence shows it's because New Jersey has a better gun control laws than Texas. So maybe right, one more minute with some, probably everybody knows, right, the famous school shootings in the past, 1999, Columbine, 13 killed. There was a ISRO, right, officer at school, armed. Santana High School, 2001, 2 killed, armed security guard. Marshall County High School, 2018, 2 killed, armed security guard. Another famous one, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, 2018, 17 killed. There was a ISRO at school. And then Santa Fe High School, Texas again, 10 killed with 2 armed officers at school. Then Robb Elementary, Uvalde, 2022, everybody's familiar with that, 21 killed. Right, there were 376 officers eventually responded and waited in the hallway. So I just don't see empirical evidence that armed security guard helps. No. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a long version and a short version. Which one do you want?
Whatever,
It's 9:57.
It's 9:57.
well, any,
I guess we'll be discussing this over the next few meetings, so I won't give you the long version right now. But there's reasons all this is happening. There's reasons more people are thinking about this. And as a guy who's worked in schools for many, many years and works with security people directly, it matters. I mean, seconds matter in incidents. You're preparing for the worst moment, not the best moment, but the worst moment. And the more prepared you are, the better off you are. I can go into detail about all these statistics and all the other things, which I will not do right now, but suffice it to say, we're going in the right direction. And I think we should continue to research this and move forward with arming our security professionals.
thank you. All right. Did you want? So I know I've had the ability to speak on this a few times now, so I don't think I really have anything additional to add. Thank you for providing the information that was asked and then some. I would also like to, I guess at the next meeting, if we could even talk about the more details about the cost that would be associated. I understand just preliminarily that it's different than what we had anticipated in past discussions. So I look forward to getting an update with true data, and then continuing the discussion. And I think at some point we will have a formal vote which is what the board has asked for. It is also noted that our policy doesn't necessarily need to change. I think that if anything, we would have a resolution, or not regulation, that would outline additional details than what it has now. So more information, I look forward to receiving it, I think, and looking forward to discussing it with the board.
And Dr. Roberts, for the sake of the community, can you just outline a little bit about the timeline that you were just alluding to with the formal vote or the more information?
Sure, I can, if you can again.
Yeah, so I think we will certainly, for the next meeting, have more of those cost details that she was asking about that I can get to you. The June cow is on June 1st, where I think we will have further discussion of this and then hope to have some sort of board resolution on the June regular meeting. I keep saying the 18th, but I think it's actually the 20th. I'm not really sure. But the second June meeting is probably when we'll ask for the board to make a decision. That will enable us time, if we're going to change things, to work on it over the summer and put those things in place. And if we're not changing things, then that's a good end of the year discussion time.
Does that suffice?
That's great.
Okay. All right. All right. And then any liaisons? Federated meeting is this week. I know there is a link that's out for those that want to attend. All right, and on to our public comments. At 10:01, we will open up the meeting to general public comments. You can state your name and address. And you have 3 minutes. Mr.
Can I
Cole
just
has been
applaud the
waiting
public
patiently.
commenters for waiting 3 hours to come and speak?
I know.
Thank
This
you
might
for
be
your
a record.
patience.
I get it. Is it on now, or did I just turn it on now? Yes, yeah. Sorry. Just before I say what I plan to say, I have a set of alternate charts. If you care to look at them, I'll just put them here. The thing that people read statistics differently. There were 417 respondents to the survey. It was 1.9 to 1, roughly 2 to 1 in support of the naming. If you break out the central school respondents, there were 102 central school respondents. Slightly over half of the central school respondents were opposed, 55% of them. There were 56 of the 102 respondents. It was not an overwhelming community-wide opposition by central school. They were split on the issue. So personally, I'm inclined to look at the overall, that 61% of the 417 respondents favored it. But what I had wanted to say, and when I run out of time, please tell me, if you rename an auditorium or put a plaque on the wall, you're privately commemorating Thomas Hawkins. It's private because it's closed. It's in the building. Nobody sees it who doesn't enter that building. While he certainly deserves recognition, we have the opportunity to do something more significant. Amending the name of the school is a public statement. It rises above being memorializing, and it becomes symbolic. It speaks to who Glen Rock is, not just who Thomas Hawkins was. We all know that redlining was real for more than 100 years, which is why there was such a concentration of black families around Broad Street. Give them the houses next to the railroad tracks. This guy, a black man and a product of our school system, went to that specific school in the late 1930s, and he beat all the odds and was accepted to medical school. Think about that and what it says about the Glen Rock school system. He deserves an auditorium just for that. But then he volunteered during World War II and joined the military. Against all odds, he became one of the limited 1,000 sent to Tuskegee for training. Against all odds, he became one of the 300 sent to Europe to fly. And against all odds, he became a flight commander. There are many amazing stories of veterans, and for my money, every one of them deserves a plaque on a wall and a hell of a lot more. No other building in town is named for a Glen Rock alumnus. I think the symbolic meaning of doing this is so significant and will speak so highly of Glen Rock that we should settle for nothing less. At this moment in time particularly, the world finds itself at the most unsettling situation in my lifetime. Heroes are hard to find. We have one, and he sat at a desk at that school.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Thank you.
Thank you. As a proud 1964 sixth grade graduate of Central School, I am here to support the name change to honor Thomas Hawkins, who attended Central School and died giving his life to our country, for our country. What most people don't know is that many of the planes that were flown during World War II were very dangerous. Thousands of young men died just learning how to fly them before they even made it to go into combat. I do hope before you make the decision, you read Thomas Hawkins' history to know exactly what he did for our country. I did go ahead, copy the history, and I will leave copies if you haven't actually taken the time, because I agree with the comment that many people don't even know who he was. I'm a past Glen Rock Board of Education member, so I know firsthand how difficult decisions can be. However, this decision, in my opinion, is an easy one. Most of the people who disagree with the name change said their reason was tradition. However, over the years, traditions change as times change. It was always a tradition for our pink bank to remain pink in town for 70 years. And now we have a gray bank. I worked for that bank 56 years ago, and the name changed, because when I was there, it was People's Trust. Names change all the time. Even though it is gray now, people might still refer to it as the Pink Bank. And people may still go ahead and call it Central School. Several years ago, I gave up my teaching career to move out of Glen Rock to be with my husband when he was transferred to Chicago, because thousands of people did not want his company, Macy's, to change the name of the city department store from Marshall Fields to Macy's. And he had to go out there and straighten that mess. So I am very well aware, and I understand when people don't like name changes because of tradition. Please understand, we would be not taking away the Central School name. We are adding a person's name to the school who we should be honoring for what he did for our country. In naming the school Thomas L. Hawkins Central School, all 4 of our elementary schools will be named for extraordinary individuals, and not just 3 of our elementary schools. I thank you for your consideration in this matter, and I really do hope more people in our town will really read and take the opportunity to understand what we're trying to do here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I have two comments to make. One is about the school calendar. The other is about security. I emailed the board a few times about the calendar issue, but I think emails get lost. I want to make a statement here. I would like the board to consider making the Lunar New Year a district holiday officially. And I know next year is Saturday, but it will come into importance in the coming years. Glen Rock has many families that are from East Asia, and recognizing this day would acknowledge the cultural heritage of our community and support students to celebrate. It can be a teaching moment as well for many of our families to learn about their cultural traditions from East Asia, especially as we teach Mandarin Chinese as a foreign language in the district. So, and this aligns our calendar with the practice of several neighboring districts. So it's not a huge ask. I know emails get lost, so I'm here to make a public statement about that. The second part I want to touch on is about security. There is a lot to be, a lot not said in the joint statements, which I understand, but I would like to make sure that the fields outside the school, the playground outside schools are being secured. The playground for the young pre-K kids are right outside of high school, right in the plain view, and to me it's very concerning that someone could walk up to the playground and threaten our kids. There's lots of miscommunication as relates to staff and students that are outside the school during the incident, and I want to make sure the school board is making sure that there is enough oversight and supervision to make sure we have adequate policy in place. I'm in full support of having armed retired police officers in school, but I would like to hear more about outreach efforts, how we're going to introduce them, how we're going to educate our staff, and especially our kids, young and older, to learn about their roles. I found the study that Mr. Tom cited deeply flawed and not realistic to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no more members of the public to make comments, we'll close our public comment session at 10:11 p.m. All right. May I get a motion to adjourn? Dr. Pucci-Bender, seconded by Mr. Hayward. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We are adjourned.